Hey, welcome to Integrative Preparedness. I'm Steve Smith. I want to talk a little bit today about law enforcement in our new developing world. I don't wear or carry a badge anymore. Uh, like many formers will tell you, it never really ever gets out of you. Uh, I thought that this is the closest thing that I have that kind of reminds me of those days, and so I thought that I'd wear this to help me think of what to say today. Maybe the pressure on my head and my brain will help out. We'll see. The world's changing, and we're going to see a change in how things are done in many areas of our life. I ran into a young officer the other night, and I told him that that these times kind of reminded me of when I went on in the early 70s. There had been, of course, the big riots in the late 60s and pretty much social unrest after that. We were coming to the end of the Vietnam War. Police and military were pretty much universally despised, across the spectrum of our society. They weren't called heroes; they were called pigs and baby killers. That's kind of unusual. It's hard for the new guys who are on now to understand because ever since 9/11 they've been held up as heroes, uh, which also I'm going to get to in just a second. But things are changing on them fast. Um, we're going to see a change, I think, in law enforcement. We've seen already in the cities those who have been told to stand down and the effect of that. But I don't want to talk about politics. I want to talk about the guys and the gals, the men and women who are out there wearing the badge now. I want to talk to them and I want to talk about them a little bit. First off, in my opinion, there's only one badge. Um, There may be many shapes and designs and things, but there's only one badge, and that's the badge that's put on by a man or a woman who has decided to accept a responsibility to ensure or try to ensure the safety of the community in which they live, to stand up against the evil, to stand up against the bad, to stand up against the predator on behalf of the innocent and the normal citizens just trying to go about their daily lives. If anybody puts on a badge for any other reason, it's not a badge in my opinion. It's just jewelry that they think that they look good in and are proud to prance around in as long as things are going well. And when things start to go not well, it's amazing how quickly they find another job. No law enforcement officer considers themselves a hero, and no one else should either. We do or did the jobs we did because we believed in it. We felt a calling to it, and did it for what we felt to be the right reasons, not to be a hero. And I always felt uncomfortable when people made statements like that, and I think that most other law enforcement officers do also. They don't want you to look at them as a hero. They want you to see them as a member of your community that it stands ready to stand against those things that other people don't want to deal with. They go out every day, every night. They deal with things that most people don't even want to hear about, let alone want to see or do. They see things and deal with things that make them wonder whether there's a God. And if they can remember that there is, that will see them through. Like the military, and I wasn't in the military, I chose law enforcement, but like the military guys say, if you weren't in it, you can't understand it. If you weren't or aren't a cop, law enforcement, you can't understand it. And there's no reason that you should. There's no way to, and nobody thinks less of you for not. But the load that's carried is substantial. The things that you deal with on behalf of, or at least what you consider to be your responsibility to your community on behalf of your family and the others, leads down dark roads that are hard to navigate sometimes. And at the end of shift, they'll come home, not one to talk about what they did because they don't want to bring it into the house. They don't want to bring that into where they live, into the sanctity of their home, their wife and children, their husband and children. And in many cases, if they did, the spouse, I have to say that now because back in my day it was pretty much all guys. The spouse too often will say, I don't want to hear it. And of course, then that causes a big division. Law enforcement has one of the highest, at least it did in my day, and I don't know if it's changed or not now. If it hasn't, it's probably going to go back to it, and under the new life we're entering into, had one of the highest incidents of alcoholism, divorce, and suicide of any job. I read something somewhere that law enforcement experienced a higher percentage of PTSD than the military. I don't know that to be true. I don't remember where I read it. It doesn't matter. I'll tell you this. Us old guys, we used to poo-poo on that PTSD when we first heard about it. For crying out loud, be a man, gut up, don't be a baby, have another drink. Well, that's how a lot of us did it. And so I used to think that was pretty silly until some years later I took one of these tests that it says it gives you like 30 things to choose from, and if you have, I don't know, 6, 8, 10 of them, you have PTSD. I had every stinking one of them, but I didn't think it affected me at all when I was in it. And I didn't realize it until I was out of it, and years out of it, and looked back and saw the difference and thought, whoa, wow. As we come into this new era, I think it's going to continue, as I've said before. I think the violence is going to continue, and this is going to put our law enforcement people in a much different situation than they're used to. I pray for all of them. The good ones are going to stay. The bad ones, the ones who are in it for the wrong reasons, they're going to be gone pretty soon. And there's quite a few of those. And that's good, except it leaves a lot of empty spaces for the good ones to have to pick up. For people who are not in law enforcement, I want to say this. Like I said, don't look at them as heroes. They don't want to be looked at as heroes. They want to be seen as caring members of your community. They're out there because they care. Treat them as such. You don't have to thank them for their service. You don't have to tell them what a hero they are. Just give them a smile. Give them a wave. Buy them a cup of coffee. Let your kids know that they're friends. Any guy who's been on for any time will tell you, at least it used to happen, I assume it still does. Occasionally I'd have be somewhere and some mother or father with a little 4, 5, 6-year-old boy, usually a boy, rarely a girl, would point me out to their kid and say, see that deputy over there, see that policeman over there, if you're not good, he's going to put you in jail. And that used to make me so mad. And I tell you what I would do. I wouldn't let it go. I would walk over there and I would get down on my knee, eye to eye to that young man, and I'd say, I would never put a good boy like you in jail. And if you ever need help, you come to me or one of my friends. And then I'd stand up and I'd look that mother or father in the eye, and I'd say it loud enough for the kid to hear and the parent to understand. I'd say, your daddy, your mommy never should have said that. Don't use the police as your tool. Let your children know that that law enforcement is out there on their side. Let them be on the same side. And let the law enforcement know that you feel that way. For you guys and gals in law enforcement now, I think you're going to enter into a new era, and it's going to be tough. The people around you won't understand what you're going to be going through. It's going to feel lonelier than it has been for many of you, because many of you have worked jobs where you didn't have to deal with too bad of stuff too often. You kind of let it go a while, but I think the day's coming when that's going to get more common. And you other people who are friends or family of theirs realize what these guys are possibly going through. They're out there many times alone. It's not, you're not out there with a team most of the time. I'll tell you one time, I was in the middle of the city, and what they now call the hood. I was on the sheriff's department, and I was coming home. As a matter of fact, I lived in the city, but I was coming home, and a little situation popped up. I went down, and I won't go into details, but I went down and did what I had to do. And all of a sudden, I was in the middle of the street with about 30 or 40 of the locals around me who were trying to decide whether to kill me or not. And being on the sheriff's department, I was in the city, but we were on different radio frequencies, and there was no calling help. I was standing there in the middle of the street, surrounded by these people, with for you old guys, you'll get a kick out of this, with a Model 15 Combat Masterpiece in my hand. That's a 6-shot revolver, and 2 dump pouches carrying a total of 12 extra rounds, while we all decided what was going to happen next. And then I started hearing sirens, and it was just a couple minutes, well, probably not that long, seemed like that long, before a bunch of the city boys were there, and the crowd decided that that night was not the night. These things are going to happen more often, I think. Police are going to be targeted. Police are going to be ambushed. Police are going to have, in my day, we had a code for possible ambush call. It was fairly common. They're going to be set up. It's going to be a different time. So I was just thinking about this today, because the reason that I was thinking about it, and I've been thinking about saying this for a while, because I heard a song that means a lot to me. I was kind of surprised, to be honest. I've been out of it for so long. I was kind of surprised when I heard this song that it still meant so much to me. It even chokes me up on a couple of parts. I won't say what parts those are, but it's Under the Weight of the Badge by George Strait, and it made me think about this. Now, I've put that song up over on the Patreon site, so anybody wants to go over there and listen to it, and everybody should. You should hear the song. those in law enforcement will appreciate it. Those who are not should listen to it and let it say something to you. Realize what these men and women now are going to be going through, what they're going to be dealing with. It's going to be totally different than anything they've seen in the last 20 years. And this is the line of people. That's why they call it the thin blue line, even though a lot of us wore brown. That stands between you and the chaos that some very well-funded and organized groups are trying to bring your way. So, God bless all you all still carrying the badge, and stay safe. And you all who are out there who aren't, you're their support. Remember that, whether you're related to them or not, you are their support. They need you, so be there for them, okay? I'll let it go with that, and go over and give that song a listen. Now I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.